Do you remember those days messing around with cool ideas after school? Just you and your buddy making stuff as you went? Life happened, but those crazy dreams of starting something huge never really left you. They're like that one friend who keeps nudging you to do something epic. And when it comes to making big moves, there is this one place everyone talks about, Y Combinator or YC. It's where the big names like Airbnb or Dropbox first kicked off. Maybe you already tried to apply to Y Combinator, or maybe the way to get in isn't clear to you. In both cases, today's about to get real. I'm gonna cut through the noise and share the best practices and the red flags that I've seen across dozens of startups that have helped to get into Y Combinator in the past couple of years. Let's dive in. Picture this, it's 4 a.m. in Paris. Everything is quiet. And then my phone buzzes. It's a message from Michael Sibel. Got a minute? He texts. Michael is the guy who started Twitch, and now he was the managing director at Y Combinator. Not long before, my friend Ferruccio and I had 10 minutes interview with him. We put everything into it, but it really didn't go as we hoped. We shared our big idea, but Michael and his team weren't sure we could make it happen. That was tough. After that, Ferruccio and I were just destroyed and needed to chill and think. We put a lot of hope into this interview. Then, out of nowhere, Michael texts back and he's like, "Do you have a minute for a call?" So I hop on a call with him, and he told me that he systematically asked his batches to install a tool like ours, but they didn't do it. And so maybe we were right. Maybe these tools were too complicated, and maybe we were into something. And so just like that, they got what we were all about, and we got into YC. I'm Enzo. I started June, a tool to help businesses understand their data. Back in 2021, my friend Ferruccio and I took our shot at YC. And that crazy early morning text changed everything. Since then, I've been helping others try their luck at YC. It's tough, not everyone gets in, but I've learned a lot about what makes a good or a bad application and what to watch for. Today, I want to share everything I learned about applying to YC and what I think can help you get in. But first of all, is YC still the place to be? Is YC still the go-to in 2024? A few years back, YC was the obvious choice. Now things have changed. You can find tons of startup advice online for free, and even though the tough times we're going through, it's easier than ever to get funding when you're getting started. YC has been changing a lot too, making some folks wonder if it's still all it's cracked up to be. There are many reasons not to apply to YC, but let me take the opposite approach here. I think YC is worth it if one or several of these points apply to you. Reason number one, your dream customers are at YC. If the folks you want to sell to are in YC, then this is a golden ticket to get your first fans and get your business rolling. Reason number two, you need a foot in the US. YC puts you on the map in the States, helping you connect with customers, investors, and future team members. Reason number three, you're starting out. If it's your first time building a startup, YC is like a fast forward button for learning. It makes everything from hiring to finding money way easier. Reason number four, timing is just right. YC is perfect if you've got a clear directions. Too early or too late, and it might not be the best fit for you. Reason number five, you need more speed. YC teaches you how to move fast, solving problems in a week that might take others way longer. And the last reason is to up your game. Being surrounded by driven people at YC is extremely inspiring. It's a place where you're building your dream alongside others doing amazing things. If these points are relevant for you, then YC might just give your business the boost it needs. If you see other reasons to join YC or want a second eye on your application, please let me know in the comments. I would love to help if I can. Okay, so now that the value of getting into YC is out of the way, let's figure out how to get in. Just a heads up before we dive in, I'm not officially tied to YC obviously, so what I'm about to share is just my take on what makes a standout application. I would definitely advise to also check out the tips and advice YC itself puts out. Getting into YC really comes down to two steps. One, fill out your online application and cross your fingers to get picked for an interview. Two, rock that 10-minute interview when you get there. The written application is made of three parts: the recommendations, your founder profile, and the application itself. Getting a thumb up from other founders is a big deal because it shows that folks who have been through YC believe in you. It's also a sign that you're good at networking, which is going to be very important in the business world. So, what makes a solid recommendation? Well, the person vouching for you will need to answer a few key questions. Let's start with your Hacker News handle. Your Hacker News handle matters because it shows if you fit with the YC vibe. Being active on Hacker News and engaging with the community there can work in your favor. The strength score is crucial. You want someone who really backs you, aiming for the top marks. Avoid the low end of the scale, as a weak score can drag your application down. So pick your recommender wisely. The next bit is about how they know you. YC wants to make sure the recommendation isn't just because they're your buddy. A high strength score can be balanced out if they say, I'm a friend of theirs, to keep things fair. Then it's all about whether you ask for the recommendation. This one is less critical in my opinion. If you've got a bunch of warm recommendations and they all say that you've asked for them, it might not look great. At June, we had 3 recommendations and it worked out pretty well for us. Next up, let's talk about filling out your founder profile. It might seem straightforward, but don't overlook it. Here are 3 parts that really counts. First is your title. Keep it clear and direct. Show that you know who does what in your team. If you're the CEO, make it known that you're the decision maker. They often ask this in the interview, by the way. Next is your best hack. YC loves the hacker mentality. So share a time where you cleverly solve a problem, even if it's non-tech related. This could be anything that shows your creativity and resourcefulness. My co-founder, for instance, made a bot as a tribute of Program, YC's co-founder, and called it The Life of PG. Stuff like that can stick in their mind. Next is your biggest win. Here, they want to see what you're made of. Tell them about the most awesome thing you've done aside from your current startup. Dig deep and find something that really shows your potential. I talk about joining a startup and growing it from 50 to 150 people in just a year. My co-founder mentioned how he built the largest online food recipe platform in Italy. YC is all about those folks who are up for a challenge, ready to make something cool happen in this world. And in that club, everyone is sharp and gets to the point. So when you're filling out your form, you gotta be a bit like that. Be savvy, but keep it real. Show them you've got it together. And throw in a bit of your personality. It's about making them nod and think, yeah, this person gets it. All right, let's talk about the form. And let me get into the weeds of what feels right and what might not. I'm not gonna go through every question, and I'm gonna skip the fluff, but I'm gonna rate the meaty parts from 1 to 3, with 3 being super key. Kicking off with who codes. YC really wants someone in your team to be hands-on with coding. Early on, you've got to be ready to change things up fast. And that means having someone who is coding like she's breathing. So if you're delegating out the code work and just sticking stuff together without really coding, it might not fly with them. And so that's a solid 3. Next, you need a co-founder. YC is in the known. Starting a business is tough. Going it solo can be a real slog. If you're currently flying solo, it might be time to find your right-hand person. YC has been pretty upfront about this one, and so it's another big 3. Next up, the 1-minute video. This part is pure genius from YC. In just 60 seconds, they get a sneak peek into your whole vibe. They get your ID, how clear you are, how you gel with your co-founder, and the energy you're bringing. YC's got some pointers on making these videos, and I'll drop a link in the description. But my 2 cents is to check out some top-notch applications videos that you can find on YouTube. My personal faves are DoorDash and Zenefits. And hey, bring your magic touch to it. Just reading off a script is a no-go and screams that you're not all in. So that's a big deal. It's a 3. Moving on to your company information. Summing up what your company does in 50 characters or less sounds simple, but it's key. It's like the first hurdle at YC. And if you can't nail your business down to a sentence, honestly, the rest doesn't even matter. So keep it real and clear, even if it feels like you're just scratching the surface of your big dream. YC is just trying to get the gist of what you do and make sure your customers will too. We went out with out-of-the-box product analytics for modern teams. That's it. It sounds very basic, but it was clear enough. That's another 3. Next is, do you have a website for your company? This is a sneak peek that you're actually doing stuff, not just talking big. Hackers get their hands dirty and they try to get things out there ASAP. If you're thinking about applying but you don't have a website yet, then maybe spend a day or two whipping one with a no-code tool like Framer or Webflow. Actually, I think it'll get you thinking about your main message and what your product is really about. Of course, your value proposition will evolve, but that's not really what YC is drilling into. It's about seeing that you're making moves. Next is the demo. It is just as crucial as the website, but I think it proves that you're able to go beyond just talking and starting building that thing. Even a basic demo is better than nothing. Both the website and the demo, I would rate them at 2. All right, coming up next, what is your company going to make? This is where you get to expand on that 50-word teaser that you dropped earlier. You want to be clear here, no beating around the bush. Think about adding one sentence to give a clearer picture of what your product is about. Then hit them with 3 bullet points that really shows what sets your product apart. That will help to paint the bigger picture of what you're all about. We did something like that, and trust me, clarity is critical here. They've got to understand your vision, or they might stop reading at this point. And that's why this one is also a solid 3. Next up, the progress part. The question is, how far are you along? Again, this is your chance to show that you're not just sitting around. You're out there making things happen. Depending on what you're building, the milestones might be different. Maybe you've been talking to users, maybe you've got an MVP and you're running it, or maybe you even got some paying customers for your product. If you're in a field where things take a long time to get off the ground, like launching a satellite into space, maybe you've got some patterns or you've put together a killer team. In our application, we shared that we built an MVP, that we launched it, and that we were already learning and improving. Again, this is a big 3. Then, how long have each of you been working on this? It's a bit of a balancing act here. If your idea is super fresh, it might seem like you haven't thought it through enough. But if you've been at it for ages, then it might look like you're stuck. Somewhere between 3 and 12 months feels about right, especially in a fast-moving field like tech. Please do not lie, they will figure it out. At June, we were at it for 6 months. I would call it a 1. I don't think it's the most important one. Are people using your product? Okay, here you really want to say yes. If not, it's time to hustle and change that. YC is awesome for speeding things up when you've got a direction. But if things are still foggy, it's tough. Having even a few users will give you a solid start and shows YC you're onto something. That's a solid 3. Do you have revenue? Even if it's just a bit, showing that you can make money counts a lot. It shows your idea is not just cool, but it's actually worth something. Keep it real, keep it simple. At June, we started charging $50 a month. It wasn't perfect, but it showed we were serious. This only gets a 2. Last year, over half of the startups that joined YC weren't making any money at the time they joined. So it's not the biggest deal, but it matters. Next, are you reapplying with the same idea or did you pivot? If you're back at it with YC, this is your chance to show how much you've grown since last time. So make sure the changes are big and real. A new audience, a new perks, or a new co-founder, that's the stuff you're looking for. Just tweaking your startup name is not gonna make the cut. That's a 1. Have you participated in other programs? YC is curious about that. As far as I know, they're not too worried about sharing the pie, unless maybe it's a major player like Sequoia Arc, and other programs can actually be a plus. Our startup got some backing from a startup studio in Europe. We're not sure if it helped, but maybe. So I would call it a 1, could give you a little edge. Okay, so now the idea itself. Show that deep connection to the problem. Maybe it's your expertise, maybe it's a story that is close to your heart. Be genuine and also show you're not just talking, you're doing. This is what we did with our application. That's a big three. Who are your competitors? This is your chance to show you really get your market. Break it down here. Show the direct competition and how they're missing the mark. For our application, we mapped out the market and pinpoint where each player fell short. This bit is a 2. It's important, but you will learn and adapt as you go. The question also asks, what's your secret sauce? Here, share that one thing you've figured out that others haven't. Like Airbnb insight about students needing affordable, authentic places to stay. These insights are game changer, and so they get a solid 3. How will you make money? So keep it simple again, lay out your business model in one line. Again, that's a 3. The wrong model can sink your startup. And on the contrary, you can innovate with a great pricing structure. Now let's tackle the second part of the question. How much could you make? This one is about market sizing, and it's often a bit of an estimate. YC knows that. They just want to see how you approach the problem. For us, we say June pricing starts at $99 per month per workspace. We aim for 1,000 workspaces in 12 months, which would bring us to 1.2 million of annual recurring revenue. We're targeting 500,000 small and medium businesses with a monthly budget of $2,000 for analytics, which makes it a 12 billion market. In fairness, I think this one is a 1. Next, how do users find your product? This is your go-to-market strategy. A fantastic product won't go far without a way for people to discover it and to buy it. You can name 2 or 3 channels here. That's enough until your Series A. In our application, we mentioned inbound channels like SEO or co-marketing because we knew they worked in our industry and they match our self-serve product approach. This one is a 3, simply because without a go-to-market, you don't have a company. Finally, if you track user engagement and retention, where are they? This question is recent. We didn't have it in 2021. Ideally, you want to have a user retention at 3 or 6 months. It shows that people are sticking with your product, which is a good sign for future monetization. Anything above 30% on the timelines I mentioned is really strong. If you measure retention, choose the right frequency for your product. If it's a social media app, aim for daily retention. If it's an accounting software used weekly, go for weekly retention, and so on and so forth. A bit of self-promotion, we built a tool called June.so to actually measure the user retention out of the box, so you can check it out. This question gets a 1. Many startups don't have this data yet, and that's okay. Okay, now let's wrap up with the equity section. This section is about making sure that your cap table isn't messed up. So YC wants to make sure they're not investing in a startup with complicated ownership structures. If you've worked with our accelerators, which is totally fine, you should have a good reason for wanting to join YC, and this is where you can explain it. YC also wants to understand your mindset. Are you raising and spending a lot, or are you more on the frugal side? Historically, YC has leaned toward frugality, but it depends on your business, of course. This one gets a score of 1 only, but the wrong answer can hurt you. Finally, let's cover the other and curious categories. So the question asks you if you have other ideas you would like to apply with. This one is a bit tricky, and there is no right or wrong answer. It's a chance to show your company culture. Are you quick to drop an idea, or are you fully committed to the current one? Some of the biggest YC success stories were pivots, like Deal or Brex that used to be a VR company. We chose to go with none. We're very bullish with June. Again, this one gets a score of 1. It's not critical, but it reveals your mindsets. Last question, what convinced you to apply to YC? This is your opportunity to show that you're already part of the YC community and know what you're getting into. Mention any friend or event related to YC that pushed you to apply. We mentioned that some friends who went through YC encouraged us. So that's a wrap on the application breakdown. It's a lot to think about, but remember to be honest and concise in your answer. And good luck with your YC application. This is just the first step. If you want to know how to nail the 10-minute interview with YC, please check the next video. If you found that video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world, and it's what pushes me to make more videos like this one. See you in the next video. Take care.